It's time to talk about slides that work. Where do we begin? We begin by asking a simple question every time we build a slide. What's it for? This slide, what's it for? Who is it for? Who am I trying to change? How does it build the argument? How does it lay out the data that needs to be laid out, the argument that needs to be made, the conclusion that needs to be leapt to? Does it create tension? Why is it here? If you can't answer those questions, take the slide out. One method that I recommend is to get a big stack of index cards before you touch your computer. And on each index card, outline the one thing you want that slide to be for. Okay, so in this section, I'm going to talk a little bit about some tactics, some approaches, give you some shortcuts. Mostly, I want to tell you a story because it's stories that we remember, and that the best slides you're going to have are slides that prompt a story. And then your story will be associated with that slide. The story will be remembered because of that slide and vice versa. This is Lucy. She's an acquaintance of mine. I dare call her a friend. I met her in Kenya, in a fertile valley of Kenya, talking to her about how she ended up becoming a millionaire. A farmer with an acre and a half of land. Next door neighbors on either side, the same amount of land. Both of them are subsistence farmers. Not Lucy. Lucy has 1 million Kenyan shillings in a cigar box under her bed. Lucy owns a taxi company, a tree farm, and also uses hybrid seeds from Western Seed, enabling her to grow corn that actually makes a profit. When I give a presentation and I see this picture of Lucy, it gives me an opportunity to share my experience with her, to tell a story about how she became who she is. It's a building block along the way. So if you get one thing out of this section, it's this. Every chance you get, replace your bullet points, replace your charts with stories. The stories can have a bullet point, they can have a chart, but mostly they're a chance for you to tell a story. Okay, so if we think about this, here's a fairly typical slide that you might see in an investor presentation. Someone's got a new business. They're trying to become Uber for trucking, right? Now, there already is an Uber for trucking. Let's leave that aside. So what they say is, all right, well, we've done the research, and IDG says that Uber is serving the short-term transport market for consumers. How do I get from one block to another in San Francisco? And this year, it's $18 billion spent on taxis and car sharing services. We, on the other hand, are going for a market that's $185 billion. So therefore, you, Ms. Venture Capitalist, should realize we have a huge market opportunity. The slide's pretty typical. The typeface is forgettable. The bullets are dispassionate. They don't show a point of view. Consider this alternative. Here we go with a more thoughtful typeface showing that we care enough to be professional. And there to scale, one business 10 times bigger than the other. That's pretty good. Let me go a little bit further. Here we go by using tension to bring it to the fore. We're in charge. We own the clicker. I say, look, Uber is a pretty good business. Uber is a business that's serving a market that's $18 billion in size. Our business, on the other hand, is going after a market that's literally 10 times bigger. So the question that you need to ask yourself as the creator of this slide is, 1, will this format resonate with the person I'm showing it to? Is it in their vernacular? Will they think highly of it? Because if they don't, then I've got a problem. But if I can get past that, then the second question is, will they remember this? Will it have more of an emotional impact on them when they think about the relative size of one market versus the other? Okay. Here is a different way you could do it with a different vernacular. I put up the chart and then I say whoop and whoop. Now, this is significantly more powerful than a couple statistics with a couple bullet points, and it gives me a chance to tell my story. So as you can see, there are lots of ways to tee these up, and the built-in way, the method that Microsoft would push you to do, is almost never the right answer. One thing I like to do is to use this animation, this control I have, and integrate it with a story. So one of the things I talk about in my presentations is the idea that direct marketers think about the world as a funnel. You put attention and prospects in at the top, and drip by drip by drip, money comes out the bottom. And there's a lot of talk about funnel analysis and funnel optimization. And I say, you know what? We don't need another funnel. What we need is to give our users a megaphone. That if our loyal users have a megaphone that they can tell other people about, we're not in the business of squeezing juice out of strangers. We're in the business of giving the customers who care about us a way to share it. This resonates with people. And if I leave behind a plastic funnel, it's even more powerful. Another thing that I hinted at before is the idea of embedding video. Video talks to people differently than bullet points do. That if you can bring the voice of the customer in, if you can bring in the look and feel that we all see all day into your deck, it will get under the skin of somebody who's disinclined to be leaning forward. It will cause them to perk up and listen to what you have to say. This is a slide that we use on the Alt MBA site, and it's got a very simple function, right? There's 15 logos here. Notice they're not hiding. They're quite large. 15 logos from all over the internet. What does it say? It says people like us do things like this. It asserts with proof that if you were thinking about whether this was sketchy or not, don't worry, it's not sketchy. That what it does with 15 logos is clearly communicate to people that you're missing out on something. Clearly establishes that this is something for people like us. Another way to do it, slightly different, here's a slide with 30 insurance company logos on it. One thing I could imagine doing in a pitch, business to business, is to say something like this. You know, there are 30 leading insurance companies out there, and we serve all but 3 of them. Now, as soon as you do that animation, I'll do it. I don't know if this will let me do it again. Let me see. As soon as you do that animation, everyone's wondering which 3 you didn't get. And by wondering which 3 you didn't get, they're also thinking deeply about how many you do have and how they not being on the list makes them look bad. Because what do these other companies know that they don't? Here's a way that I would encourage you to talk about numbers. Earlier, we talked about the fact that you're going to want to eagerly distribute exhibits after you're done. Because if thoughtful analysis is necessary to understand your point of view, you want people to do the thoughtful analysis. It's just really hard to do it while you're making the presentation. So instead of putting up a spreadsheet and trying to talk people through the whole thing, you could do something like this. You could say, in the exhibits when I'm done, I'm going to give you the spreadsheet, and what you'll notice right here, and then you point to the key thing, is your conclusion. By highlighting your conclusion, you get people to suspend disbelief, at least until they get their hands on the exhibit. And then, without the deck in front of you, you can talk them through it. This pie chart is hellacious, of course, and the person who built this forgot to ask, what is it for? Why did they even make this slide? Why are they putting this in front of people? Well, let me assert for a minute that the purpose of the presentation is to change the prescribing habits of certain doctors in the hospital. It's literally a matter of life and death. So I'd act that way. Here's my version of this slide. It's red because red is the sign of danger. It's raising a flag, not crying wolf. It's really true. And the argument is simple. Antibiotics and painkillers are the fastest growing things that we are prescribing in this hospital. In fact, they're up 15% and 19% in the last 12 months. We have to figure out how to stop this because people are dying as a result of our prescribing habits. Okay, as I wrap up, here's another slide that's very typical. One of the things that the person who doesn't want to take a point of view will do in their presentation is put a lot of stuff on one slide. The thing you must remember is this. Slides are free. You should never have more than one idea on a slide, just like you don't have more than one idea in a sentence. Step by step, drip by drip. That what we do when we make a presentation is we architect our way to the action we are seeking to cause. All right, one little aside here, a tip that I hope you will find valuable. In Keynote and PowerPoint is something called the presenter view. What the presenter view can be set up to do is show you not just the current slide, but the next slide. No one else can see it but you. So you take your laptop and you hook it up to a projector or to a screen. Everyone else is looking at the screen or the projector. You have your notes there at the bottom, but most important, you know what the next slide is before anyone else. So as you're speaking, you can start talking about the next slide before you click to it. This is a profound shift in your posture. What it means is that the presentation isn't running you, you are running the presentation. I beg you to give that one a try. So, where do we leave this? We leave this very simply. At the end of the presentation, there must be a call to action. And I have one for you. This work you're doing, it matters. If it didn't matter, you wouldn't be doing it. And the presentation is part of that work. It's a building block in the journey to make change happen. You should own that, and you should push it for all it's worth. Thanks for the work you do.